right, Commissioner, you're good to go.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 13th, 2025 Connecticut Paid Leave Board of Directors meeting. I'm Michelle Gilman. I'm the Vice Chair of the Paid Leave Board of Directors, and I would like to call the meeting to order. It is now 9:02. Amber, would you please take attendance?
Sure, thank you. Ava Bermuda Zimmerman,
Present.
Isha Canada,
Present.
Adrian Cochran and Andrea Comer will not be joining us this morning. Michelle Gilman,
Present.
Sheila Hummel,
Present.
Ellen McKitterick,
Present.
Fran will not be joining us this morning. David Salazar Austin,
Present.
John Scott. I don't believe John has joined us yet, but I will circle back. Mike Soltis will not be joining us this morning. Molly Weston Williamson.
Present.
Holly Williams will not be joining us this morning. Janae Woods Weber
Present.
and Justin Zartman.
Present.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Amber. I would like to thank the members of the public for also joining us this morning. And we may also have members of the legislature in and out, although it is a busy time with legislative session ongoing. I would like to ask for a review of the January 9th, 2025 meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or discussion? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion
I'll give
to
a
approve.
motion. I second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One
I'll
abstention.
abstain as well. I abstain as well.
Thank you, John,
Motion.
and thank you, Justin, and welcome back, John.
Thank you.
Good morning. Motion carries. Thank you. John, would you please provide the, excuse me, John, would you please provide the claims administration update for today?
Sure, I'm just going to share my screen. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay.
We can see your screen, John.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I have a brief overview of claims administration for January 2025 and a year-over-year 2023 to 2024 data comparison for you this morning. The 3-month claims filed trend is 24,801 claims received, with a monthly moving average of 8,267. This is a year-over-year increase in claims filed of 10% compared to the November 2023 to January 2024 period. January 2025 year-over-year claim volume was 6.81% higher than January of 2024, and January 2025 represents the second highest number of monthly claims filed at 9,029 claims filed. January 2025 is second only to January of 2022 filings, when we received a large spike of COVID claims at launch of the program in January of 2022. Year-over-year claims filed shows program growth with an increase of 10,204 claims. This represents a 10.23% growth rate in claims filed year-over-year from 2023 to 2024. Data presented includes 12,221 pregnancy cases with a bonding as a second reason from 2024, and also includes 11,045 pregnancy cases with bonding as a second reason from the 2023 data. This slide illustrates 12-month claims by leave reason and percentage of claims filed by gender statistical trends. The categories represented are in the bar chart. The 4 largest leave reasons totaling 99.42% of claims filed. Other leave categories are in the chart on the right and total about 0.5% of total claims filed. The bonding data presented also includes the 12,204 cases representing the bonding segment of pregnancy claims filed. And you can see some of those statistics on your left-hand side there. In terms of the various leave reasons, own injury and illness is the largest at 48.63% of claims filed, followed by bonding at 24.17% of total claims filed, and then closely followed by pregnancy, childbirth, and caregiver at 13.46 and 13.14 respectively. And this slide highlights the reporting impact of the successful customer service improvements made in streamlining pregnancy and bonding cases into one case. Cases filed are shown in blue, and the associated bonding segment of pregnancy cases filed are shown in orange. The reporting of these incremental bonding cases more accurately demonstrate program growth and represent a 12.51% increase in cases filed in the 12-month period ended December 31st, 2024. Counting the bonding segment of pregnancy cases as separate cases provides a level playing field to compare year-over-year claim statistics, and when comparing the Connecticut paid leave program to other state paid leave programs that count these cases separately. Year-over-year adjudicated claims show a 2.75% approval rate increase from 2023 to 2024. When adding the bonding segment of pregnancy cases, approved claims rise to over 80,000, and the approval rate rises an additional 2.74% to 80.37%. The denial rate drops correspondingly to 19.63%. Down on the bottom, the 6-month July 24 through December 24 period totals 35,576 approvals, with an approval rate of 79.32%. When including the bonding segment of pregnancy cases, approved claims increased to 41,671, and the approval rate also increases to 81.79%. Slide is the race and ethnicity data. This race and ethnicity data was collected on an opt-in basis beginning in August of 2023. The data reported are cumulative statistics from August 2023 through January of 2025. The opt-in response rate for race and ethnicity is 33 and 32% respectively. Approval and denial rates are relatively consistent with overall program rates, although there are a couple of categories that have lower approval rates. To the extent that those differences are not skewed by low response rate, we think additional outreach efforts in 2025 by the community education coordinators may help to improve some approval percentages. This outreach through the community education coordinators is aimed at underserved communities. And the weekly payment slide here, the weekly payments trend line graph shows significant weekly payment growth to an average of $8.45 million per week over the last 26 weeks. The trend is being driven by 3 components: a year-over-year increase in claims filed of 10.23%, an increase in the approval rate of 5.49%, and 2 increases in weekly benefit rates tied to minimum wage increases. These minimum wage increases compound to a 9.26% increase in weekly benefit rates. On the right-hand side here, you can see a dip on the far end of the chart, and some of those lower weekly payment data points that you see there in December and January of 2024 reflect seasonality in claims filed that we have consistently seen over the last 3 years in leaves taken in November and December. And that being said, November and December of this year were certainly in excess of the prior year. So we have had growth there, but we do have the seasonality. And this slide is the number of unique employees paid by CTPL has risen to over 142,000, and the total amount of the program has paid to Connecticut workers is now over $1 billion. 2024 total payments increased by 22.58% compared to 2023. Average weekly payments over the last 26 weeks have risen to 8.45 million per week, and all payment metrics show significant growth from 2023 to 2024. This slide illustrates customers' electronic filing, portal usage, and electronic communication, and this is the fourth quarter of 24 slide. Web claim filing remains strong at 73% of claims filed. Opt-in for email and text messaging is very high at 85% and 81% respectively. Portal messaging is a highly utilized mode of communicating for claimants who prefer the ease of messaging their case manager. And CTPL's redesigned website claim section features a streamlined layout with easier access to improved claims filing information. CTPL website enhancements combined with AFLAC portal enhancements are helping drive our efforts to inform and educate claimants and employers on claims process requirements. These IT improvements have helped facilitate increased approval rates and lower denial rates. The authority's internal customer service personnel and AFLAC personnel are now able to drive customers to these enhanced resources, and we are seeing improved claims outcomes as a result. And lastly, this morning, I also wanted to highlight for you some of the ongoing behind the scenes work that Claims Administration Benefits team does. Our 6-person team provides direct customer service support to claimants and employers to provide program education, assistance with program questions, and case-specific issues or problems. This team serves to facilitate expedited customer service and resolution of claim issues through direct contact with customers and employers. The team is also instrumental in continuous quality improvement through vendor oversight and quality assurance, claim and call audits. These audits serve to ensure compliance with program standards and facilitate a continuous quality improvement feedback loop to AFLAC for process improvement. And that concludes the claims presentation. Any questions?
Any questions for John?
Hi, Molly.
Thank you so much for this. This was really helpful. I just wanted to make sure that we don't gloss over one of the really awesome things on this slide, which is noting the 1.5 to 2% monthly random audits. So I think we've talked a lot about what the oversight of AFLAC looks like and how we're collectively understanding what's happening there, making sure that policies are being followed. And I have to imagine that doing the random audits is really resource intensive, but it's really, really valuable in making sure that you have that kind of understanding of what's going on day to day, that it's not just getting claims that are being elevated, which from an equity perspective, we assume that lower income workers are less likely to appeal, all that good stuff. So I think in just sort of understanding what all of the work is that authority staff is doing in relation to AFLAC and how that relates to the outcomes, that random audit piece is really important. And I was not aware that was happening. So I want to make sure other folks are also aware that's happening, because that's really important and I assume takes up a lot of time and resources to make that happen.
It is, and it does, and I appreciate the recognition there. The audits have been successful over time. Certainly at inception, the rate of problems that we were discovering was slightly higher, and at this point, it has evened out and remains at a very low point of errors and omissions that we find. But it gives us the opportunity, as you said, through that random audit process and the volume of those that we're doing, to really identify any issues with claims more broadly and get that back to AFLAC for response, certainly for correction of any errors that are found, and more importantly for process improvement and that feedback loop that they need in order to identify where the kind of weak points are and problems that can be resolved that way. So it has been a successful effort, and it's an ongoing effort on a daily basis.
Any other questions for John? John, excellent presentation. I also
Okay.
want to commend you and the staff for the metrics here, the outreach, the marketing, the new website, all of that, along with our vendor engagement, helps to drive engagement from our communities and from our participants and the growth of the program. So it's clearly demonstrated through the metrics here and the growth in the program, but want to recognize the entire team for the work that's gone into this program from inception to today. So thank you.
Thanks,
And I'm sorry,
folks.
was there another comment?
Okay, I'll stop
Okay.
sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. We will move on to committee reports. Mike, would you please provide the policy and personnel report?
Good morning, everybody. So Mike Soltis is out today, but fortunately it's an easy update. The committee in January voted to change the cadence of the meetings to bi-monthly rather than monthly. So therefore there was no meeting this month, but we'll meet again in March and have an update for that.
Great. Thanks so much, Michael. I appreciate that. And then next up, Molly, would you please provide the outreach and engagement report?
Sure. The committee met last month in January and received an update, including talking about the Community Education Coordinator Initiative training, which was about to happen when we had the meeting, but now has since happened. We also heard an update from Nancy on the podcast and from Maddie on the legislative update, including there's a couple of bills coming up that the authority is continuing to monitor to see if they start to move. And since our committee also voted to move to an every other month schedule, we did meet in January, which means we will not meet in February and will reconvene in March. I think that's our update.
Great, thanks so much, Molly. And I know Holly, I don't believe is on the meeting, but is there an update on the Finance and Audit Committee report?
There is, Michelle.
Excellent. Thanks,
As you
David.
pointed out, Holly is unavailable today, but what we did discuss at the last Finance and Audit Committee meeting were a few things. Number one, we received a quarterly financial actuarial report. We got an update on that from the actuaries. The committee had a discussion and voted on regarding the frequency of the committee meetings, and that vote was to maintain the current cadence of monthly meetings. Also at that meeting, I presented a draft timeline for a request for proposal of a vendor for a vendor of actuarial services, and I did my regular presentation of the financial reports, which I'm going to do now for the board. Excuse me.
Do you have sharing capacity, Dave?
I am.
Okay.
I feel like Zoom changes the layout every time we have a meeting, so I just have to find the right button. Okay, it should be on screen, right?
It's all set.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, so these are the results through the month of December, halfway through the year. Month to date, our results were a negative $987,000. That is better than budget by almost $703,000. That positive variance was mostly payroll driven. We had and that variance is actually higher than usual because in November we had a lower than usual variance due to a timing difference of the third payroll period for the month. It all balances out at the end of December. And so for year to date, our results are almost $3.6 million. And that has resulted in a positive variance in our operating account of $2.7 million year to date. The large expenses continue to be the typical ones for the authority: payroll and the related expenses, contact center, outreach, grievance adjudication, and some software licenses. Regarding our bond activity, we spent almost $90,000 in bond money this month on our fund recovery system. That was a positive variance of about $10,000 for the month. Year to date, we've spent about $610,000 and we're just under our budget of $600,000. So that's almost an $11,000 negative budget year to date for bond money. But we don't expect to be over or materially over that amount by the end of the fiscal year. We do have $1,775,000 of bond money available, and we expect to be spending that on fund recovery and possibly some other initiatives during the rest of the fiscal year. Moving on to contribution activity, in our contribution account, it was over $32.5 million negative activity for the month. That was just under $4 million of a negative variance for the month of December. The largest driver of that, as usual, continues to be benefits paid. We are paying more benefits than we had budgeted almost 10 plus months ago. So that's really not a surprise at this point. The benefits we did pay out was over $34.1 million. That averages out to $8.5 million a week. And as John said earlier, we do see seasonality in the months of December and January. So the average of $8.5 million a week is actually lower than it was in November, which was 8.7. So we did see somewhat of a dip in December. Having said that, the other significant activity was better than budget. Contribution was over $500,000 better. Our fund recovery efforts continue to exceed our budgeted expectations, and our investment income of $2.2 million was also better than budget. Our benefit administrative fees were $1.9 million. As usual, that will go up starting in next month, starting in January. They'll be up 3% for a price increase that is allowed in the contract. Year to date, our activity is $1,264,000. That's over a $25 million. It is over a $25 million negative variance compared to budget. But again, that's because of the higher benefits being paid out. So that is the main driver of it, that negative variance of $34 million. It is offset by positive variances, again, in contribution revenue and the other categories. And in a few minutes, I'll tell you how that will affect, or how we expect that to affect our results for the rest of the fiscal year. Currently, or I shouldn't say currently, but at the end of December, our fund balance was over $567.3 million. So still in a good state, still solvent. So no concerns there at this time. Quick preview for what happened during the month of January. Our operating expenses were just over $1 million. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Our benefit expenses were $39.8 million. That was for 5 weeks because we do reimburse AFLAC weekly. So we had 5 weeks of reimbursements. That averages out to $8.0 million a week. So again, we do see that seasonality in January, but we are seeing the benefits pick up again towards the end of January. The numbers started going up and into February. So we do believe that seasonality period is ending, and the benefits being paid is starting to increase again. Of note, contributions for the fourth quarter are due no later than January 31st. So we did get much of the contributions for the fourth quarter in the month of January, over $104.5 million. We'll have a more detailed analysis on that next month when we go over the results through the month of January. And as far as projecting is where we believe will be by the end of the fiscal year for our operating account, we believe we'll be at just under $6.1 million for the fiscal year. That is a $4.2 million positive budget. Nothing much has changed since the last time we reported this positive variance. The significant items such as payroll related positive variance and our IT consultant expenses continue to be the significant main drivers of that and are not expected to change for the rest of the fiscal year. For our contribution accounts, we expect to be at just over $6.5 million of net activity for the year. That is over $56.5 million less than what we budgeted. But again, that's due to the increased benefit activity that we've been seeing. But we still do expect to be positive by the end of the fiscal year. And on a cash basis, we do expect the fund to be in the neighborhood of $575 million by the end of the fiscal year, June 30, 2025. So that's what's happening from a financial standpoint at the authority. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Any questions for John? I'm sorry, any questions for David? Great, seeing none. David, thank you so much for the comprehensive report as always, and for monitoring the funds available to paid leave authority. We're in great financial, we have a great financial picture here and really appreciate, again, the watchful eye of not only this board, but also the team and the staff at the authority. Thank you.
You're welcome, of course.
Next on the agenda, Erin, would you please provide the CEO report?
Thank you so much, Commissioner. So I have a few things I wanted to touch on this morning. First, following up with Dave on our budget process, because we are not an agency that receives appropriations from the legislature, our budget process is different than traditional state agencies. So while everybody else is scheduled for hearings with approps, we are actually just starting our fiscal year 26 budget process this month with internal meetings to identify what we expect we will need for next year. Those internal meetings will result in a draft budget, which will be presented to the Finance and Accounting Committee at the end of March in accordance with our plan of operations. They will have a month to review it. If everything goes according to plan, that will be brought back to the board in May. One of the areas of variance this year in our budget was related to the Community Education Coordinator Initiative. When we sought approval from the board a year ago to engage in that initiative, we estimated that we would have between 10 and 15 community education coordinator partners. We have 7, which actually turned out to be perfect for a pilot year. 7 gave us the ability to kind of figure it out as we went along and manage it. So those 7 are now out in the world. As has been mentioned, we had our final in-person training with all 7 organizations at the end of January. It was a full day in-person event that included half of the staff engaging in training opportunities where the CECs could practice how to assist someone filing a claim, assist an employer with registering a business, remitting contributions. They had practice in educating people about the program. So it was a huge undertaking. I want to give credit to Virginia who led it, and thanks to again, half the team who came to 4:50 on a Friday afternoon, a snowy day, to make it all happen. We have added a CEC page to our website. It's on the resources page if you're interested. That is going to be continued to be built out, but right now it explains what the program is, identifies the 7 organizations. As we work with them to develop their calendars, we'll also be adding information about when when and how people can set up in-person technical assistance. So we're very excited about that. As Molly mentioned, we've been very busy on the legislative front, but thankfully we haven't had too much that we actually have had to testify. We actually have had nothing so far that we've had to submit testimony on. We're tracking over 100 bills, which is light compared to my previous world at DIS, where several hundred bills, but 100 is enough for us. In addition to tracking those bills and making sure that we're communicating with legislators about their questions and issues, Maddie's been doing a great job in setting up opportunities for us to brief both the caucus, all 4 caucuses and leadership. To the extent that the caucuses have been willing to meet with us, we've been setting up meetings. We've also been doing outreach to our federal delegation to make sure that they know the work that we're doing here in Connecticut, and also to talk about the draft, sort of the drafts for discussion that have been developed on the federal side. So lots going on there, even though we don't have any bills this year that we ourselves are promoting. I wanted a quick reminder for everyone. We had asked that you all complete the online ethics training that is offered by the Office of State Ethics, and having completed that training, to send the certificate that's available online to Amber. About half of you have sent those certificates to Amber. If you haven't, please do so. If you're not sure if you did, please contact Amber. And if you're not sure how to access the training, please let us know and we can send it to you. It's just a good idea, best practice as public officials. It's really important for you to be aware of some of the restrictions, and we've done this a few times now. We just think it's important. I will be reminding you next month that it's time to start thinking about your reporting to the Office of State Ethics with your statements of financial interest. I always connect that to taxes as you're getting your taxes ready. Sort of a good time to think about the statement of financial interest. But that feels like a March thing, not a February thing. So more to come on that. Also next month, we're going to have a really busy board meeting. So I know a couple of you have already indicated that you have scheduling conflicts, but to the extent possible, if people are able to come to next month, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Most importantly, from my perspective, we've been working on the RFP for third-party administration, for claim administration, and we will be bringing our recommendation to the board for discussion and a vote in March. We will also be bringing the revised employee handbook that has been out for public comment for a vote. We're just trying to update that handbook, and that needs adoption by the board. There may be a few other things on the agenda. I know we have an actuarial update as well, so March will be busy. As always, the meeting will be recorded, except for things in executive session, and will be posted. So if you can't attend, you will still be able to see what we talked about, but please come. And I think that's it, unless anyone has any questions for me about our activities or topics that we haven't yet covered this morning. Oh, Molly.
Thank you so much for that. I did want to ask, so if next month is the month where we're hearing the staff recommendation on an RFP for renewing the contract, I think when we had the initial vote, we had talked about wanting to make sure that next time the process was up again, wanting to hear about what the state standing up its own capacity could look like, and at least to hear some numbers and some recommendations on that, since Connecticut does have a distinctive way of approaching this. And if next month is the month we're hearing the staff recommendations, I would be very interested in at least hearing the staff's thoughts on that, and hearing, particularly, I know we've had some discussions about what the costs would look like, as well as the timeline. So I would love, not now because it's not about quiz, but it seems like next month would be an appropriate time to have that discussion and to hear that information.
Certainly. I will just remind you that this time last year, we did do a full session about deciding whether to pursue standing up internally versus the RFP process. So we did do that a year ago, and I'm happy to update that information next month. But the reason we did that a year ago is because we knew the RFP process would take a long time. And so we got the vote from the board that we should stick with the claims administration. And so that's why we've moved forward. So while we're happy to give you that update, of course, the vote will be on the recommendation because at this point, the sort of, it's not really a spoiler alert because we were very clear about it last year. It would take a significant amount of time to build our own. So we would have needed to make that decision a year ago if that had been the path. But thank you for that recommendation, and we'll include that in our next month's presentation.
Any other questions for Erin? Erin, I do want to acknowledge again the outreach that you are doing as well as the CEO. I know that you were just profiled on WFSB on the Great Day show on February 10th. It's on YouTube and probably other areas as well on social media. But thank you again for all the work that you do to promote the program. And again, great comments on your presentation there. So thank you again.
Thank you. I will share. I was also on WTNH the week before, so want to give credit where credit is due to the other big entities, and we are in discussions with some of the other local television. I was also pleased to participate in 2 podcasts this month, which will be coming out at the end of this month or in March. So we're really working hard to make sure people in Connecticut and across the country know about our program.
Excellent. Thank you. And again, I think it shows in the metrics, the data, the engagement. So again, kudos to all for continuing the work on that effort. So next on the agenda, do we have any old business? Seeing none, do we have any new business to discuss? Seeing none, I believe we have completed our agenda for today, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Right, motion carries. It is 9:39. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you again all for joining and for the great work of this authority. Thank you again. Have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.